Good afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is October 4th, 2023. There's a lot going on. I've tried to distill this call to the best of my ability because, again, there is a lot going on. But I'm going to try to confine myself to the things that are most relevant to those of us that are holders of the dinar and some of these other currencies. If you like the things we discuss on our calls, I certainly hope you'll click the subscribe button and share our call with other like-minded individuals. This is going to be a very short call today for the very simple reason that Trusts Unlimited has been completely and totally inundated with new trust applications. In the last 10 days, we've got what I would say is the equivalent of what we'd ordinarily get over a 3-month period. So we've been extremely busy. As a matter of fact, a couple of trusts went out with some errors that had to be resolved. I apologize for that. That's a couple of things contribute to that. Some of the information was inaccurate, people not understanding the various terms of the trust. Some of it was us just moving to as quickly as we possibly could, knowing that our clients were very interested in getting their trust as soon as possible. So what we've decided to do in order to make sure that everyone gets their trust prepared in a timely fashion and all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed is we're just, this week, I'm not marketing the trust at all. We're just going to talk about what's going on and why those of you that have established your trust may be very glad you've done so, because things are moving very quickly. We have about another half a dozen trusts that were completed last night. They will go out as soon as this call is done. That's another reason why I'm moving quickly, so that we get these trusts out. So let's go ahead and talk about what's going on in Iraq. First, and again, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're just sharing with you the information that we believe to be most relevant as currency holders ourselves. For the last, actually, it's been over a month now, I've talked about a window for the reinstitution of the dinar in country between October 1st and November 15th. And it looks like that time frame that might very well be accurate. Now, of course, what we've seen in the recent history is the passage of Iraq's historic 3-year budget. We see the HCL is basically waiting on an exchange rate. Everything else is pretty much done. There's a very important 3-day window here from September 28th to October 1st, and a lot has happened in that period of time. We're seeing basically, in my opinion, the completion of the monetary reform. We've seen the establishment of international banks, or Iraqi banks in different nations, and the implementation of their electronic/digital transfer system. They've also ended auctions of the USD. What this means is the Iraqi dinar is no longer a restricted currency, and that means that it's ready for full membership with the World Trade Organization and placement on the Forex. Once it reinstitutes in country, that could be a situation where it reinstitutes and then shortly thereafter hits the Forex, or it could happen simultaneously. I'm beginning to think it's going to be happening simultaneously. One of the reasons I say that is because all of the international contracts that Sudani and the ALAC and those in Iraq have consummated with all manner of countries for all manner of reasons. Contracts having to do with their electric grid, their water system, the road system, the refinement of their oil, all kinds of infrastructure bills, the building of new cities, all of this. Now, in my opinion, there's no way that these contracts could have been consummated if the parties involved were not operating with an internal rate for the Iraqi dinar. This cannot be accomplished at a program rate. It is true that Iraq has more USD reserves than it's ever had before. It's also developing reserves with other nations' currencies as well. It's also purchasing a substantial amount of gold. But even with all of that, there is no way with that amount of reserve they can still fund the 3-year budget and consummate these international contracts. So in my opinion, the only plausible remaining option and the only reason they've done what they've done is because they're operating with the understanding that they're going to have a new national currency in a very near future. And again, that window for me is October 1st to November 15th. So we basically have an unrestricted currency with a nation that's now Article 8 compliant with the IMF, ready for membership in the World Trade Organization, in my opinion, very shortly, which makes no sense at all at a program rate. So again, I see no plausible explanation for what's going on unless Iraq is going to have a new national currency, they're going to have a new exchange rate, and they're going to be able to not only consummate all these contracts, but they're going to be able with the electronic and digital system to function with international transfers, be compliant with the Bank of International Settlements for these international contracts. And there's really nothing much more to say today. This is where we find ourselves. Those of us that have had the dinar for some period of time and have been very frustrated and become impatient, I think the wait is going to be well worth it because I think the Iraqi dinar is going to be stronger than ever. Now, there have been estimates that the dinar could easily reach between $9 to $12. I've even seen estimates as high as $16. I believe the Basel IV extrapolated rate is $4.85. We've been using probably for 15 years as an estimate based on our understanding of Basel compliance, $5. And the reason we use $5 is because according to the Basel compliant formula, the value of the currency relative to other currencies is no longer going to be based on the central bank's ability to manipulate their currency. It's going to be based on Basel compliance, which is the known natural resources of a country and their ability to bring those resources to market. And as I've said in the past, in my opinion, Iraq per square mile might be the richest country in the world. And I've explained in detail why I believe that's the case. But anyone that knows anything about the natural resources of Iraq knows that the Iraqi dinar is going to be a very strong currency against the dollar. The number one currency against the U.S. dollar is the Kuwaiti dinar. And that has to do largely with Kuwait's geopolitical position in the Persian Gulf and the ability to distribute oil from the Middle East around the world. But even that being the case, the wealth of Kuwait is dwarfed, literally dwarfed, by the wealth of Iraq. So if the Kuwaiti dinar is worth about $3.45, the Iraqi dinar went into a program rate at $3.22 despite the mess that Saddam had created. Well, now we've had 20 years to correct all of that, and we've had inflation as well. We have the price of oil going up. You factor all of these things in, I don't think $5 is an outrageous at all expectation for the dinar. And again, when it hits the Forex, how can it not be at 322? Because that's where it was when it went into the program rate. So for those of us that have the currencies, we're in a very good position in terms of the profit that we can expect from just the dinar. And remember, the other issue is this. We're transitioning from Western bank fiat-based currencies, again, to Basel-compliant currencies. And so if you're the holder of the Iraqi dinar, you're really in the sweet spot of all of this. Again, this is going to be a short call. For those of you that have not heard our calls before or are considering establishing a trust, I would strongly suggest you go back and listen to our call of the 27th of September because it goes over a lot of things going on in Iraq, precursors or prelude to what I discussed today, but we also go into an in-depth discussion of the trust and why, as a denarian, you should establish the trust before the revaluation, if at all possible. But as an American citizen, given the destruction that the current administration has brought to this nation. It's important that you exercise your constitutional right, privacy, asset protection by establishing our Family Asset Protection Trust package. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for listening to the call. I'm sorry that this is a shorter call. I enjoyed doing the longer calls. I enjoy our Q&A, but we just have too much going on here, and we have to provide the best service we possibly can. And again, there were a couple trusts that went out that we had some confusion about some of the fiduciaries in the trust. So we resolved that last night, and we've got additional paralegals assisting us so we can get these trusts out. I have 6 or 7 sitting right here that need to be reviewed and go out, and they're going to go out right after this call. Our next call, of course, will be next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency conference call and get out an email and announce an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening. And for those of us that have currencies, it looks like we're in a really good place. Take care and have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Recorded.